For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. What we don't know about the sinful cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. How grave were the sins committed by the inhabitants of these cities? The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is one of the most well-known in the Bible. These cities paid the ultimate price for their sins, complete destruction. Only one man and his family were allowed to escape. Everything else was laid waste. But why did Sodom and Gomorrah face God's wrath? How grave were the sins of their inhabitants? It is important to note that, in addition to Sodom and Gomorrah, there were 3 more cities along the banks of the Jordan River. The 5 were known as the cities of the plain. The other 3 were Admah, Zeboim, and Zor. Admah and Zeboim were also destroyed because of their sins, but they did not become as famous as Sodom and Gomorrah. Zor, on the other hand, was spared from divine punishment because Lot, the nephew of Abraham, the legendary common patriarch of the Abrahamic religions Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and the Baha'i faith, was living there. For millennia, homosexuality has been cited as the reason for the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. But there is another version of the story, that the cities were destroyed because their people were inhospitable to strangers. The theory focusing on homosexuality refers to Genesis 19:5, where the men of Sodom say to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may know them." This interpretation is reinforced in Jude 7, which says, "Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion." However, inhospitality was a serious matter at the time. In Matthew 1:15, it is written, "And if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet when you leave that house or town. Truly, I tell you, it will be more bearable on the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that town." So what was the real sin? Ezekiel 16:49 reads, "Behold, this was the iniquity of your sister Sodom: pride, excess of food, and prosperous ease. But she did not aid the poor and needy." And Jeremiah 23:14 says, "Among the prophets of Jerusalem I have seen something horrible. They commit adultery and live a lie. They strengthen the hands of evildoers, so that no one turns from their wickedness. They are all like Sodom to me. The people of Jerusalem are like Gomorrah." Lawlessness reigned in these cities. In 2 Peter 2:6-9, it is emphasized how Lot was saved by God, who did so because Lot was a righteous and godly man. Lot and his daughters managed to escape unharmed. Lot's wife, however, did not. She disobeyed God and looked back, and for that she was turned into a pillar of salt. Ironically, Lot himself committed sin with his daughters after fleeing from the city of sin. But why? The ancient Hebrew text, Genesis Rabbah, offers some insight. It turns out that the Messiah was prophesied to descend from Lot's lineage. Thus, Lot and his daughters were seen as having fulfilled God's will. Lot's daughters bore Moab and Ben-Ammi, who became the founders of the Moabite and Ammonite dynasties, peoples who would continually be at war with the Israelites, God's chosen nation. The Roman version of the story. This is not the only story in the Bible that can be found elsewhere. The Roman writer Ovid wrote a fable combining elements of Greek and Roman mythology. The story of Baucis and Philemon. The gods Zeus and Hermes, Uli or Jupiter and Mercury, respectively travel to a city disguised as ordinary men, only to find that everyone is inhospitable except for Philemon and his wife Baucis, who welcome them and offer them food. The men eventually reveal themselves as gods and warn the couple to flee, for they are about to destroy the city. Sound familiar? The Islamic version of the story, in Genesis 19:26, it is said that Lot's wife looked back during the destruction of the city, disobeying God's command. As a result, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Surah Hud 11:81 in the Quran says, "The guests said, O Lot, we are messengers of your Lord. They shall not touch you. Depart with your family during a part of the night, and let none of you look back, except your wife. She will be struck by what strikes them. Indeed, their appointed time is the morning. Is not the morning near?" This suggests that Lot knew his wife would be punished. But the question remains, why? The cities of the plain had a troubled past. Before the apocalyptic event, Sodom and Gomorrah had already been ravaged by war. Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, attacked the cities, killed their inhabitants, and plundered their riches and food. So perhaps the citizens had reason to turn away from God's will to become hardened and hedonistic. But in the end, they paid for it in the worst possible way. Could archaeology reveal the truth? In 2005, archaeologists discovered a vast site in Jordan known as Tal El Hammam. Could this be Sodom? The man leading the excavation, archaeologist Stephen Collins, was an evangelical Christian on a mission to find the city, something that led some to question his findings. Nevertheless, the uncovered site lies at the most probable location of the cities of the plain, and evidence indicates that the place was devastated by fire. It was found that pottery at the site had turned into glass, as if exposed to extremely high temperatures. Could this have been God's work? In 2018, Collins proposed a theory that could explain the intense heat that melted the pottery. A meteor. He claimed that a meteor exploded over the Dead Sea, destroying Tal El Hammam. The account of such an event could easily be interpreted as a sign that God was furious. The only one of the 5 sinful cities left unscathed, Zoar, appears throughout history from Roman to Islamic sources. Excavations in the area, mainly during the 1980s and 1990s, revealed several findings, including a cave that may have been the very place where Lot sought refuge.